Hi, I'm happy to say we have made it to episode 50, you guys. Welcome to the Austin Downbeat. I'm Kat, your host. Let's just do a refresh of all the places that you can follow and see what's going on before we jump into our usual rundown. So, this show is on YouTube. Obviously, that's where you're watching it now, but you can also follow me on Instagram, two places, one at Austin Downbeat and the other at Cat is on the radio, and that's Cat with a K. Um, and you can kind of see behind the scenes and stories and all kinds of fun stuff and see who's playing. Sometimes folks don't make the rundown, but their shows pop up. And so I share them spontaneously. And so be sure to follow me there. And if you get a chance to hit the subscribe button, super, super helpful, even though I hate having to pay attention to that. Okay, so big episode number 50. I can't wait to talk about my guest today, but first we're going to do the rundown as we always do. This is some of the people that are playing in Austin this week for April 11th through the 17th, and here we go. On the 11th, Tuesday, Kelly McWee is at the Continental Club. Ruby Dice is at the Saxon Pub. Wednesday, the 12th, West Texas Exiles, they will be on the show very soon, are at So Far Sounds. Former guest Brian Wolf is at the Pitch. On Thursday, the 13th, former guest Ruthie Croft is at the Rock House, and Co Wetzel is at the Moody Center. On Friday, the 14th, you have Christine Renner at the Lucky Rabbit. Erica Michelle, former guest, is at the Fairground. Shiny Ribs, former guest, is at Far Out Lounge. So many good people. On Saturday, the 15th, Vanessa Lively is at Austin Acoustical Cafe. Nuevo is at the Hill Country Galleria for some of their fun outdoor concerts. The Texas Gentlemen are at Green Hall. On Sunday, the 16th, Madame Radar is at Circuit of the Americas at Coda. Dice Spitz, this band is fascinating to me. They are at Waterloo Records. And last but not least, you have a Monday night residency evening. So Monday Night Supper Club at El Mercado. Bob Schneider does his residency called Lonely Land at Saxon Pub, and Dale Watson does his thing at the Continental Club. That is your rundown. Like I always say, be sure to follow all the folks that you love, get on their band camps, buy their merch, go to their shows, and support them. That's what this show is all about. Okay, my guest for you today is Einar Pedersen. Einar is a bass player extraordinaire. He is currently on tour with the Fray. He's played with Kelly Clarkson. And for most of 2022, tour managed for Duran Duran. So we talk about first half of the interview. We talk all about him and all of that stuff, how he got into doing what he's doing. And then the second half of the interview takes a turn. And I will tell you this. Number one, I love, love, love people that tell the truth. And I love it when people are straightforward. And if you are a creator of anything, specifically a musician, super helpful, because that's who he works with at the Austin Music Foundation. But if you create anything, potato chips, zippers, children, please, if you watch the whole thing, that'd be great. But if you're short on time, go to around the 30-minute mark where we really start to talk about Austin Music Foundation and what they do, and specifically what he does one-on-one with artists. It is a bit of a masterclass, and I turned from interviewer to absolute recipient. So really, really good stuff that we dive into. I'm not going to make you wait anymore. Please enjoy my conversation with the very talented, wonderful, and energetic Einar Pedersen.
Got it.
All right. Einar Pedersen, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Einar Pedersen.
Nice to meet
How's it
you.
going?
I've met you before, silly goose.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. It was like 2018, I think, that I met you.
Whoa, was it 2018?
It had to have been, yeah.
Man, I don't even know what years are anymore.
Time is but a construct.
And right now, man, all the I love the the springs come in, and I like the cool temperatures creeping in, but my head is being done in by like all the allergies and everything. I thought I would
Yeah.
have a moment of like, oh, this is gonna be cool, but no, it's not.
I thought about that today. I stepped out onto my patio and I was like, gosh, this cooler weather. I love it. I love it. This is perfect if it could just stay
Yeah.
this way. But yeah, I think I'm
Pretty
10
hot too.
years. Yeah. And then I have a sneezing fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 10 years into being here in Austin, and I think it's just now starting to get me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while, but now yeah, now I got it.
Are you in Austin physically right now?
Yeah.
Nice. Is this
Yeah,
just
yeah.
your home base, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have so many questions for you because yeah,
Crazy.
I know. I'm like, all right, so let's start kind of at the beginning. Where are you from? Like, where were you born?
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, nice.
Yep, Metairie Hospital, and
Okay.
so that's where I was born, and I moved. My dad was in the oil, yeah, I guess was because yeah, he's retired, but in the oil business. So moved, spent most of my schooling years, like middle school, high school, that kind of thing, in Houston, and
Okay.
some elementary school as well. And then yeah, and then moved to Austin like the day after I graduated from high school.
On your own or with your family?
Yeah, no, on my own. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, came to a provisional, not a provisional, what do they call it? A probationary um uh thing to try to get into University of Texas. Um,
Yeah.
but me, as an 18-year-old uh living alone, did not really work well with school, so they asked me to not come back.
Same. Same. I was on my own at 18. As soon as I graduated from high school, I left the East Coast and I moved all the way to the West Coast.
Oh,
And
dang. Yeah, I only moved 3 hours away.
well, yeah, but still, like, when you're on your own, you're on your own, and like no net, and also like so much freedom. Like,
Yeah.
did you love that freedom? Because I loved it.
Oh, I did. I did. It was amazing. Yeah. When I first moved here to go to college, I was living in consolving dormitories, which I think is still a all-female dormitory. But in the summers, it was co-ed for the people who were in this program. And I was on the third floor, two doors down from the volleyball court that was outside. So it was just like,
A dream.
yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And so did you have a plan? Like, I mean, because you go to school, did you have kind of a plan in mind of like, this is like, yeah, I want to go to school and I want to study something, or were you just kind of going just to kind of get your feet wet?
Yeah, I was just going because I thought that's what you do, and and that's my folks thought that's what you do, and it was just, but it was pretty obvious that I was going to do something um, that involved entertainment in some way,
And
probably
bigger
running
and
around like an
better.
idiot on a stage, and and yeah, so and my parents are cool. They understood the path that I was trying to take. My dad's has I have a musical background, so my dad knows um, sort of what's involved and also realities of it.
Mhm.
And so they were just always very supportive. And I was just coming because I thought it would be like, all my friends are going to college. Austin rules. I'm gonna move here. I wanted to be in a band. Uh, my high school band, um, half of us were here, and then half of the rival band in high school moved here for college. So we were like, fuck, like new band, you know. So yeah, it was always part of the thing. Um, uh, but yeah, I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna go like this is just what I want to try to do somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
How
look back, everybody looks back and was like, I should have got something in school, but
Yeah. Do you feel that way? Or I mean, you
well,
do
I
you're
have
doing
I
pretty
have
well.
friends I have friends that like went off to do all kinds of crazy things, and they have like degrees in philosophy. Like
Yeah.
I wish I was mature enough then to look at it as like that, as interested as I am in those things as an adult, as
Mhm.
much as things like, philosophy and those kind of things are part of music, a part of working with other people, part of
Mhm.
producing, part of, philosophy and empathy and understanding those kind of things. I wish I would have been smart enough to learn that. I wish I would have been smart enough to know that, Jimmy Page and the Beatles and all of Pink Floyd, it seems like they all went to art school. Like they
Yeah.
studied fine art. They studied like the beginnings of art, and then those guys use music as a paintbrush. That's the one thing that I've looked back and gone, I wish I would have been smart enough to just like study something crazy, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I share that with you. I think that would have
Yeah.
been cool. Yeah. Hmm.
You know, that's a weird tangent we got on, I guess, but that's gonna happen with me.
I love weird tangents. When did you start, was bass your first instrument, or when
Yep.
did you start playing music as a kid then?
Um, when I was young, uh, I didn't really, I wanted to play everything, right?
Mhm.
Um, my parents got me a nylon string guitar after a trip to Mexico when I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. And
Oh,
um I took some Mary Had a Little Lamb lessons with this old lady that lived down by the grammar school. And but at that point, they got it for me because I would spend my time as a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, just pretending in my room with records and get all sweaty and everything. I was a 7-year-old kid enamored by Kiss. I was the perfect age to like be indoctrinated into this insanity
yeah.
um uh that was like superheroes. So anyway, they got me that thing, and I used to set up my mom's Avon boxes. She was an Avon lady, right? I had a bunk bed. So I'd put Avon boxes on the top bunk. Um and with husky pencils, like I would be Peter Chris one day, or I'd be whatever. And so yeah, then my grandfather, my mom's dad, I'm just gonna spew all over the place. My mom's dad, um, as a younger man, was a Dixieland jazz drummer, right?
Oh, cool.
This is like in the 30s and early 40s. Um, and so he sent me his old drum set when I was maybe 10, I
Oh,
guess.
neat.
Um, it was amazing. And years I beat the shit out of it. Like I destroyed that thing. Had so much fun on it over the years, and it was in storage. And years later, um, my parents were moving from the house I grew up in. I went home to get whatever stuff I wanted. Um,
Mhm.
and those were in the attic. And as I'm pulling them down, I'm pulling down the snare drum, and now I'm like probably 28 years old or something like that. Uh, and I see there's a Gretsch badge on the snare drum. And it turned out, I mean, I was like 23, 24. Anyway, turns out this was a pre-World War II Gretsch 4-piece drum kit, kick, two toms, snare, um, 26-inch kick drum. It's here at home. My coffee table now is the kick drum
Oh,
side with glass over it.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, um crazy. If it would be in pristine condition, to be priceless. It's worth nothing now, but like right there, that's
Oh, yeah.
with the toms right here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
and they all have lights in them. They were
Wow.
cast in heads back in those days, and they would have light fixtures inside the drums so that you plug them in when you weren't playing them, so that the skins wouldn't dry out and
Oh,
crack. So I used to keep them in a pyramid in a corner,
yeah.
um, with different color light bulbs in them. But anyway, I'm going on and on about that.
So
But
cool.
it was just, I was just, it was something I was interested in. I took electric guitar lessons. I got an electric guitar when I was 11. Um, I was in the marching, not the marching band, but the orchestra in junior high. I learned to play trumpet, and I moved to French horn. I was just really just interested in all of it. And bass just came sort of accidentally when in high school. My band that plays all the parties and all the stuff, the Naughty Dogs, like we were awesome. Play like a bunch of cult songs and U2 songs
Oh,
and The
sweet.
Alarm and like all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, um, but literally it was we had a party, and I think it was at like Scanlon's dad's warehouse or something, I think, where they made us a banner. I think it was that party. I can't remember. That was like a million years ago. But our bass player, Chris Knight, my best friend at the time, his grandfather died, had to go to Amarillo, couldn't do the gig. Instead of canceling it, I was like, dude, I'll just spend this whole week like figuring it out. And I spent that week like ingesting like YouTube bass lines and Police and the Cult and all those bands from that time, and was really like, oh man. So now this is really cool. And I was the singer, and so I played bass and sang for the gig. And then I got a bass, and when I moved to Austin, that was the place that I had in the band that I mentioned that we put together from the old high school bands. Didn't have a bass player, so I was like, okay, I'll play bass. And I just saw a real opportunity with that, because I had realized, like looking back, like, oh, yeah, that's why, like, all my favorite bands from being a kid, going back, like, oh man, Rush, like, Gene Simmons' bass lines, like looking back to me as a little kid, not realizing what I'm listening to, like that dude like had some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then it just, guys like Adam Clayton and that sort of guys just really made a mark as far as I was concerned. And I don't know, just found a way for me to be necessary.
Yeah. I feel like bass players don't get as much attention. Does that feel true?
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
but it's
yeah, but
such an important part.
Yeah, I get it. And all the bass player jokes are hilarious and awesome.
I didn't know there are bass player jokes, but I just feel
oh my God, there's so many.
like my ear is always going to the bass and the drums. I'm very rarely watching the lead guitarist and the same, like I'm just really, grew up playing music as well. And so my ears just always trained to that. So like, I love the bass player and the drummer. Those are my two faves if I have to pick. But I just feel, so that's why I'm saying that, is because I personally feel like most people don't gravitate toward that side of the equation. But it's just so
I
just think it's fascinating.
But it's not as in your face as
you have to really
guitar and everything else. But what it I totally believe psychologically like does to you as a listener is it tells you where your butt goes. The drums tell you where your head bobs and where your foot goes, but the bass tells you which way to move your butt.
I like that. I'm gonna think about it. I'm going out Saturday night and I'm gonna see a couple people play at a show.
But it's good. And it's also something that kind of goes past you a lot when you don't realize that there's this melody that's happening. And it's the bass, because the bass is a linear instrument, more than a guitar. It can be groups of strings that usually moves in a line, not chordally. So a lot of times you don't even, it's just that that thing that you don't notice right in your face, but then if you watch somebody tell you what it is, you're like, oh my God, that's what that guy's doing. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
I can't wait to listen to some music tonight and watch my butt. That's the soundbite from this episode, and good night. That's so funny. Let's see. What are you doing these days to keep yourself busy? I mean, I feel like just talking to you, even when I was messaging with you, like emailing back and forth, I feel like you're the kind of guy who stays pretty busy.
I
just have kind of.
I tried to. But yeah. Currently, well, I've been for a while. I play with the Fray. That's like my main playing gig. Those guys are awesome. And they're starting to do more stuff. So we've got a few things coming up. Well, a few things I just did and some things coming up with them. But last year I spent a good portion of the year with Duran Duran.
I mean, let's
Which
talk
is
about that.
crazy.
I
Um,
mean, were you, I mean, did you grow up a fan? Did that line up for
oh
you?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And that's another one. Once I started having a bass in my hands and exploring like, well, what are guys doing on this? Um, Duran Duran, what John Taylor did uh, for the instrument in a pop and rock um, thing was it was he introduced a whole new aspect of music that existed somewhere else into
Hmm.
pop culture,
Yes.
um, which is crazy and so iconic. And that's the thing about that entire band. Um, you know, everything about what each of them does is very iconic. When you hear, a Roger Taylor fill, like when you hear it,
Hmm.
what song. You could just play the fill after the bridge in Rio going into the last chorus. You can just play that fill and everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
Um, all of them have that. Nick has that. You hear one note come out of Simon's mouth, you know who that is. They're
Yes.
just, and those songs. So yeah, for me to be, one thing I also do with the Fray is I handle all of the production management and I do all the advancing and tour management duties and stuff like that because they've been in kind of one-off mode for past couple of years. Once we go back on the road, I probably won't do all those things.
Mhm.
But now that we're doing one-offs, I'll do it. So, and I've done that for other people, from Peaches to some other folks, but nothing on the scale of Duran Duran. So when that came to me last year, I was shocked that they, agreed, as honest as I was. But it was great. I had a great time. We had a great time together. It was a big, it's 8 trucks,
Wow.
45 crew, uh, buses and all that stuff and arenas and all that thing, and everything was sold out every show, and watching that band every night. But being in charge of all those things, being the production manager, tour director of something that big was something that I hadn't ever done before.
Yeah.
um but it was great. Didn't 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 cause any shows to not happen due to my incompetence, so that was good. But it was great. Got to do so many things, ended up, I got to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with them, and experience that, which is crazy, and got to go to the New Year's Eve
Oh, wow.
New York City ball drop thing. They
Wow.
they were the last group before the ball came down. So that was great. Brought my son with me, put him to work, had a radio on him and doing stuff. It was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. How old is he?
He's 14.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I have two. My daughter turns 13 tomorrow, and my son turns 16 in July. So we're hovering
Oh,
right around
yeah.
that same. Such a great time.
Yeah. Super fun.
Are you digging
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Totally digging it. Like, we, it's great because we, enjoy the same things,
Yeah, thank God.
which is hilarious. But no, he's a good kid, real smart, and he's, I think he's a seeker. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's going to do something fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have one of those too. It's like always.
Yeah.
It's it's so cool having the front row seat to this beautiful soul's life. And it's like we have that hindsight of having a general idea of how life works and how it goes and all the twists and turns and ups and downs and that. But then when you have a kid, it's like you get to sort of start over in a way, even with the knowledge
Yeah.
of what,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's kind of trippy. Well,
Oh
it's
yeah, it
super
is.
trippy, but
But
yeah.
I tell you what, he is, it's hilarious taking him to shows or taking him anywhere. Um because like that. Because whenever if it's a thing where I just like buy some tickets to go to a show, he's just like, what are we doing, dude? Because I mean, for
Oh,
the first like nearly 10 years of his life,
yeah.
you know, that's when I was out with Kelly Clarkson. And so like all he knew about going to shows was entering through the back door and like being able to go wherever he wants and catering. The first time I took him to a show when he was probably like 5 or 6, um, I think to go see to go see Imagine Dragons at the racetrack. We're out and with everybody just in the thing watching the show. He's like, so how do we get to catering? I would explain them to you, dude. Like that's only for the people that are over there. That's not for
Yeah.
everybody that's out here. He's like, oh man, how do we eat? He was little, but yeah. So
That's
he's ruined to ever for any of that kind of stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Tell him I feel him. So I just saw your pal and my pal a couple nights ago. Monday night, I saw Johnny Goudie. He says
Oh
hi.
yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I haven't talked to Einar in a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he and I have a long history.
I know. You guys are old friends. How'd you guys meet? It was that in Houston when you lived in Houston?
Well, it was I had moved here from Houston, and then I moved back to Houston like a year and a half after I moved here, and started playing in this cool like proggy heavy art rock band called The Awful Truth from Houston that rose to a certain amount of acclaim, I guess. But Johnny was friends with the main dude, David Ollerking, um, the guitar player, um, and was a fan. Um, so I met him at Fitzgerald's when we played our first show, um, and he showed up on acid, um, and was hilarious. It was like the funniest night. Um,
Oh, Johnny.
because we were a real like this was a band that would, I'm not kidding, like any night in any club in Houston or wherever we would play, there'd be probably 100 candles on stage and probably an equal number of like incense. We had a backdrop, like we brought like stuff into every little hole that we played
Wow.
in, so he was like, whoa. Anyways, a few years later, we moved here as a group and then started to kind of fizzle. When we moved here, I was just kind of hopping around, staying at friends' couches and stuff. And I ended up running into Johnny and his ex-wife Tracy,
Mhm.
um, on 6th Street. This is like 93 or something like that. And so I ended up staying on their couch for a couple of weeks. Maybe it was a month. Um, but yeah, he and I became like fast friends, um, and would just spend the days uh, just making music to make each other laugh on his 4-track. And he had his band, Mr. Rocket Baby, at the time. Um, and then and then, uh, and then we just decided like, let's make a thing. Um, I think I played in Mr. Rocket Baby's last show, and they broke up, and we just spent the next few years trying to put something together, um, that might be special. And that's what and by the time it was by 97, we had finally found the right group of people.
For
Um,
Goudie.
yep, we got Bill Leffler on drums, who I actually went to high school with. Um, and then once we got Jimmy Messer in the band, then we had something that attracted some management. Um, Management really whipped us into shape as a unit, as a thing that lived up to our own expectations that we were probably afraid to recognize, because it's hard to do. But he pointed the way and we went to work, and that's how we ended up in a relationship with Lars Ulrich and
Mhm.
his short-lived label that he had under Elektra, and we ended up with them in like 98. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Crazy.
was a great time. It was very exciting.
I bet.
Obviously things didn't go as we would have, hoped for, but it certainly was the thing that opened the doors to just a lot of other things, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but it would have been cool. After that fizzled, like Johnny and I uh slugged it out for a little while with a couple other people. I made another record locally. Um, but yeah, you know, but it was a good time. Like,
Yeah.
it's a whirlwind, some fun stories and some definite good times. We definitely learned a lot about what we thought we knew something about.
Right. Are you applying those things now in your life today? Do you feel like you're at a place where you're actually, I think your teens and your 20s and even 30s, perhaps, depending on what you're doing for your career. But I think that's fair to be kind of learning the hard
Oh
way
yeah.
and all that.
I
But
mean,
like then we settle into, I'm well into my 40s. And I do feel like for my own life, I'm finally starting to punctuate some of the sentences, move on, figure some things
yeah.
out,
As long as you're failing forward,
yeah,
then
you're not really failing.
at least you're putting your efforts in the right places, I think,
Yeah.
um but yeah, if it wouldn't have been for that, like that, all of those people that I met in that time, um uh were all instrumental on, in some way, connecting the dots for me to
Mhm.
be able to have stories about Saturday Night Live and the Maldives, and and all of the every single bucket list thing that's been checked off is, either directly connected or, a few dots away from that moment and those
Wow.
people who later, you know we didn't, I guess, burn those bridges enough to where later, uh somebody, wouldn't feel comfortable to recommend any of us for something,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, all of that was just, just little things that connected the dots, like I said, to for me to fail at something new,
Yeah. Well, I don't
maybe
even
something
think it's
bigger than the
really,
last,
I
you
don't
know
think it's failing, but I get what you mean. Yeah. Just,
failure's not a bad thing.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't use that as a bad word. It's a positive experience.
Yeah.
It means you made an effort.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
means you didn't just sit and watch something go by.
Right.
I'll take failing at something rather than watching it go by. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How sad is that? Yeah,
But
for
but
sure.
yeah, you know, um, yeah, I don't know much more. What else you want to hear about that? I mean, I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
Well, no, let's talk about, so you're doing stuff with the Fray.
Oh yeah,
You also do stuff with the Austin Music
yeah.
Foundation. You do that with Johnny. What's your involvement in that, and what kind of got you started in that?
Yeah, that is super awesome. I mean, once I moved back to Austin, because I did leave Austin in the early 2000s after the Goudie thing. I moved to LA. First time that I was like, all right. Um, well, actually, before that, I decided to just get out of the business and went back into doing stuff in the video game world, uh,
Okay.
which was a part-time job that I had years before. Um, and I was like, screw this. I'm 30. I've hit some milestones in the music business. I was on a label, all this stuff. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go try and make video games. And so, uh, you know, work my way into a great position, to start actually like creating uh, games. Um,
Wow.
and uh, and then that company hit the wall and went it bankrupted. It sort of one of those shareholders like, let's sink the ship kind of stories.
Ah.
From what I understand, I don't know anything about that stuff. Anyway, all I know is it was over, and I was like, shit, what else can I do? Play bass.
Yeah.
Um, the two of the other guys from Goudie had already moved to LA, and like I said, all the people from those times, most of them were there. So you know, I moved there to go and participate in that in a new thing to try and see if I could be useful as a, I'd always been a dude that put your band together and you spend all your time just doing that.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna try to go be a hired gun. And so that was a great experience. Blah, I can talk about that. I know I got completely off whatever question you were asking.
Austin
Austin
Music
Music Foundation. Yes. So
I'm here for
by the
you.
time I moved back here, I was I had a son, you know. Um, Life is becoming a little different. And I was also playing with Kelly, and I was, having a great time experiencing that level of
Yeah.
playing in a band. And I'd always thought that maybe I would, want to get into something later, like management or being an A&R guy at a label or something
Yeah.
where you try to work and help to mold and shape a
Yeah.
band to go be awesome. And then that became, well, that was just something in my head. And I ran into Alex Vallejo
Mm.
at the old Soundcheck location because I was going down there because I think Fender office was down there. I ran into him. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he said, man, I'm working for this thing called the Austin Music Foundation. I hadn't seen Alex in forever since I moved, and then I moved back and ran into him. And he told me what he was doing. He was sitting down with young artists and just kind of like talking to them.
Yeah.
And somebody that can kind of be a sounding board. And I was like, dude, that rules. What a cool thing, right? And
Yeah.
so he had me come in and sit down and watch some of them and with him and be a part of them. And then they let me kind of start doing a couple of them. And the thing that it just really became something that I felt was just really rewarding. And my approach has always been to just be straight with people.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a difficult thing to do if you haven't sort of been a part of it.
Right.
You need criticism. You need to know how you measure up to a stranger who doesn't feel like they have to like lie to you because they love you,
Right.
as a person,
Mm-hmm.
as a product that nobody needs and nobody cares about.
Right.
What about it demands that people want it,
Right.
despite the fact that they don't need it, right?
Yeah.
But as I've been doing it, you come to realize like how little people are sort of given the okay to just worry about being an artist in this 21st century world.
Yeah.
They're being meant to think that you have to become a marketing professional and a PR professional, and those are the only things that matter.
Right.
And see it in the to-do list of places that you reach out for resources and help. All of
Right.
them talk about the stuff that surrounds the art, but none of it talks about like, well, is the product still conceptual in some way?
Yeah.
Or how much time, how happy are you as a fan of things that doesn't like everything,
Yeah.
that loves very little and is devoted to even less?
Yeah.
um how would you as a fan react to what it is that you as an artist are expecting you as a fan
Yeah.
to buy and understand?
Right.
Really, are you making that, and how quickly are you moving to promoting something that hasn't
It's not ready.
become an identity, hasn't really developed? It's great to see the looks on people's faces when they're like, wow, that's all I want to do is just try to write a better song today than I had yesterday, but I feel like I have to be participating in all of this other stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
Let go of all that other stuff. Like, become the thing you want to see. All marketing, promotion, PR, all of those things are so important. They're really powerful, and they're necessary. However, if you were in a different business selling a different something else, let's take your emotional content that you're self-aware about
Mm-hmm.
and replace it with potato chips or shoes or something else. Every other company that invests in possibilities of a product meant to compete for a consumer base that already has stuff they're happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Any other product, you would agree with successful companies that before they even think about marketing or promotion or branding or anything, they make the thing.
Mm-hmm.
They make the thing that requires no explanation. I don't need to read your bio. I don't need to know where you come from. I don't need a lyric sheet. I don't need to know I just need to, what's the thing? If the
Mm-hmm.
thing is doing something that draws people who have other options that they're happy with, do
Yes.
it now.
Now we
Attention.
can market that.
Now we can market that. Now we can do that. Now we can, but if you're putting out the first 5 songs that you've ever written, and you've only done some, you know, some open mic nights, and you've got a record that's got, 6 musicians on it, but you don't even have one steady person in your band. Well, if your focus and your pocketbook is going to marketing that for possibilities, you're gonna be upset.
Mm-hmm. This is so
Find a victory
valuable.
that you can have. Find a victory today that you can have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Put together something that just this that you can just go if you're going to use words like marketing and promotion, then use words like product testing and test marketing, and use words like that, meaning just get out there and find out if strangers care. And if they don't, great, they didn't care about your heroes either at first. You got to
Mm-hmm.
fight. This is a thing that requires command, and it requires doing what you do, that being
Yeah.
something that is just, consider on the scale of where what you do is undeniable or deniable.
Mm.
And if it's deniable, it's probably not because it sucks. It's because you're not listening to the own things that you wish it could be. I wish I had a band. I wish I could just play solo acoustic shows. Okay, great. Go. What presence are you putting out there to the world that like brings that to you? Go do that. Like, put that together. Put the thing together that's undeniable.
Mm.
So empowering, I guess, long story short, what I love about AMF is really having these talks with people like, dude,
Yes.
like, be what you want to see. Like forget about everything else. Like, just like bet on your music.
Yeah.
But all along the way, allow that person that gets in fights with your best friend about like why you think their favorite song sucks, like, let that person have a seat at the table,
Mm-hmm.
to inform you of next steps,
Mm-hmm.
because that person is looking out for your best interest.
Yeah,
That
and they
person
have a different
out for,
perspective and they have a different
yeah,
ear, and it's just information and feedback, and don't be afraid of feedback, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's so many tools you can use, but they're just tools, you
Yeah.
know. But man, with tell you what, with Facebook and Instagram and Spotify and Bandcamp and SoundCloud and all of those things, using those things, are all great, but all of it's gonna have a better probability if
If
what you're doing just is
yeah.
clear.
Yeah. You're speaking like I am soaking up every word that you're saying, because I think a lot about, just for me in this show, and I have conversations about just about it. And for me, the visual is like roots before leaves,
Absolutely.
roots before
Yeah.
bloom. And And also while building that, Einar, like always checking in with myself, like, do I still love it? Am I still like on a high? Like after I get off with you, I'll need a couple hours to come down because this is what I love to do. But
Yeah, yeah,
the second that I go, I don't really have to do it, or the work is making the scale tip, and it's not, even though, I'm in building phase, I know what I want this to be, but I'm so happy with what it is in this moment because I am building brick by brick toward what I ultimate, the big dream, right?
yeah.
And you got to love every step of the way, but I really believe what you're saying to be so true.
It's
And I'm
okay to be
so,
at the beginning.
yes,
It's
yes,
totally okay to be at the beginning of something.
yes. There's so much
And
gold in the beginning.
yeah, but there's so much with available to the musician today at their fingertips that, I mean, I couldn't imagine what it would be like for
Yeah.
me as an 18-year-old to be able to put whatever I thought was shit hot today
Oh, wow.
out there to the
Out
world.
there. Yeah.
Ooh, I tell you what, all of it would have been a bad idea.
Mm,
Um, but that's a reflection of me, not necessarily a reflection of whether or not 18-year-olds can do cool stuff, because they
correct.
absolutely can. I wasn't mature enough to yet. But at the same time, um, you know, uh, there is, I am a big believer all the way down from like, you know, uh, recording stuff. Like I like to set a limit of tracks, even though you've got unlimited. And
Endless. Yeah.
now I like setting limits. I like setting limits and saying we only have this much room to do something special.
Mm, mhm.
Um, because it forces you to be creative with what you have in front of you. But having all those tools, having all those services now available to us for the first time ever to hire all of those aspects of business to compete in commerce for a product,
Mhm.
I can completely understand how it's so easy to jump straight into all of those things,
Yeah.
uh,
Me too. Yeah.
and spin wheels. Um, I really get it. Because unlike any other, like, it's weird how music works like this. Like, if you were to make cookies or whatever, and that was your thing, and you wanted to take over Chips Ahoy, or if you wanted to play sports, if you wanted to be a pro basketball player, um, if you wanted to do anything and you told somebody, I want to do this, what should I do? The first thing that they would ask is, well, how good are they? Or what kind of baller are you? Right?
Yeah.
But with music, and I think it's because it's a product born of someone's emotion.
Yeah.
Uh,
Subjective.
uh, it's it's somehow taken for granted more than any other product
Hmm.
that sort of, because it exists, now you need to do all these other things. Um,
Hmm.
and to sort of put that on your shoulders, of like, well, no, it has to compete. It,
Right.
it ha- there's only one Friday and one Saturday a week. That's it. It has, everyone that me as a musician, that anybody as a musician wants something from, those people have options.
Yeah. How do you blend in the conversation, the part of the conversation about, because this is one thing I talk a lot with my guests, is like the survival component to art. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
all of this, everything you said, and also you also need dollars and a home and a
yeah,
car and gas, and you need to be able to pay for these things. And so I think that's kind of always a dichotomy of like,
yeah,
there is also that side of the coin where we got to survive. And how
mhm.
do you handle that conversation and just that sense of
Well,
balance of, especially with younger artists that are kind of like fresh out and probably have a realistic view of what's possible. I think at this point people know there is no formula for success, well, really anywhere, but like certainly in the music and entertainment business. But How do you handle that conversation?
Well,
Or do you?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have opinions. I have opinions on everything. But one thing is, there does seem to be in the 21st century a bit of a lean more than ever else, that there's somehow like that this is somehow a practical thing to get into, right?
Well, yes, I agree with you 100%
There
that there
are
is
so
that.
many places that say, here's what you need to do
Right.
to do this.
Yeah.
And literally every other decade before us, it's been very, very clear that
Yeah.
this is probably a dumb idea.
Your parents are going to get really mad. Now parents don't get mad.
No, they invest.
Right. Yeah.
They invest in promoting and marketing and doing all these things
Now you
to
just
the
talked about to
innocent
not do.
little 16, 17-year-old, and don't allow that kid to just like develop. They don't allow that kid to get out and like realize like, no, you're gonna make fucking $10 and have to split it with everybody
Yeah.
tonight because nobody gives a shit. That's
Yes.
a really important lesson, because your dreams involve doing things much more special than than you know necessarily a Friday night in wherever city you live in. Understanding that difficulty is important,
Yes.
first. But my advice in these situations is always like, well, I think I lucked out just out of dumb luck. um I'm a person that never, when I was a kid, I never was like, oh, I'm gonna be a professional musician, right?
Hmm.
um I'm gonna fucking be a rock star. I'm gonna dominate the world. Like that's literally what I you know what I mean? I want to be
Yeah.
like a dude, right? That was the thing. And so I just assumed I wasn't even, and because I have family that were professional musicians, I always, I guess, as a kid, associated like old people music with being professional, and the music that I liked that they hated was something different. Um, and it's stupid. It's a dumb kid thing, but my goal from the time that I was like 17 until the end of Goudie was always to just find a group of people who don't do anything else
Mm.
but try to become something that fucking slays like Van Halen or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and as far away as any of the bands that I ever put together like that was, that was always the focus. It was just 4 or 5 dudes that were just in a band,
Yeah.
or girls. Like there's a couple with a couple that did have females. Whatever it is, it's your gang, it's your thing that you spend all of your effort trying to make better than the sum of its parts. I was into
And
sports when I was a kid. I was huge. First thing I wanted to do was play professional basketball, but I played sports all the way through high school. And I think that mentality of like what you do in the gym before game time, how you become an instinctive unit of people who know where each other is on the floor at all times with your
yeah.
eyes fucking closed, no matter what the defense does, we are prepared enough to react. That was always how I looked at bands. And I guess being in like south side of Houston where nobody had much to do, the 4 dudes that I've found to be in a band with, that's all we wanted to do every day.
Yeah.
And so even through the Goudie years before we got signed and transitioned out of things, I just always had a job.
Oh,
I
okay.
always had a job to allow me to be able to spend every moment outside of that job with my gang,
Okay.
my people, trying to become something awesome.
Yeah.
Um, And so I'm a huge fan. If what you're trying to do is be an entity that creates original music, um, it's more important, I think, to have something that pays your bills
Hmm.
and allows you to focus on that singular art form and its delivery, um, instead of just wanting so badly to call yourself a professional musician that you quit a really good and possibly lucrative day job to go and make $75, maybe $100 a night playing 6 days a week.
Right.
That is one thing. That's something that's going to keep you in that, probably have a ceiling that's pretty low.
Yeah.
And whatever special thing about is not going to get the attention that it deserves. In fact, none of those things that you spread yourself out in, arguably, are getting everything that that entity deserves, because probably all those things are a revolving door of different people.
Yeah. So you're a proponent of real concentrated, intense focus while being strategic and allowing something to supplement and create, survival income, obviously, and then using every other moment to really just
So
concentrate
that you
your
can
efforts
make that
on
one artistic entity like be the thing that pulls you from it, because it's pulling everything else to it.
Yeah.
Because of what it is, because of what it does.
So I have a question for you. That requires a lot of
yeah, and everything is hard.
Right, but does that require?
But it requires more than one person that same devotion.
Yeah, yes. And does it also require a certain type of person? And follow-up question, from your experience of what you're seeing, and you just real generalized over the last few decades, is that intensity changed in like the young artists that you're seeing? Do you feel like we have less intensity and desire and grit and go for it than we did back in the 80s, 90s? Or because of all this technology, have we kind of taken our foot off the gas a little bit inside? Or maybe we can't even generalize. I'm just wondering if that's ever been something you've come across.
I don't know. I will say this. I will say that in any of the 80s, 90s, 2000s.
I didn't mean to say decades. That felt harsh.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly count 5.
Oh no.
For myself.
Oh.
But I will say, and this has nothing to do with anything special about me or anyone at all, but there's definitely a correlation, or in any decades, there's definitely far fewer entities who are just a unit that only do like that thing. Maybe a couple of them, but this is my band, from the drummer to the bass player to the keyboard player to everybody. That's my band. There's always been a smaller percentage of those, I guess, per capita.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be, possibly because of how we can do so many things alone now. And I see this a lot. I see a lot of people who are just by themselves because you can be.
Yeah.
And I think that could be, if there's any sort of decade or era where maybe it's sort of like you're saying, less people with that kind of like gang mentality to like be a band together.
Yeah.
It's probably because of that. It's probably because like every single person in every single band has one of these boxes at home with, probably more stuff than I got back here, and, spend a lot of their time working on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So, but it is, I think it is important, again, for what you're trying to accomplish, to get people who have other options, and who don't have time to understand your story, to like your music. It's important to understand how important consistency is.
Yes.
When you deliver something, and how important it is to just kind of be a little bit ignorant and look at every single show as like being the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
because, you know, when you get used to phoning it in, when you get used to like, well, no, I'm not going to bring the full band for this one tonight. You know, you never know who's in a room,
Yeah,
especially in a sound like this. And if it's not, there's 6 people in a barbecue joint that you play, it's a really good chance that one of them knows somebody that would be worth them risking their reputation to recommend you to.
right.
If you just kind of don't go thinking about that, you know, and even just getting, you know, random people to just talk about you on the street, like every night is important. And I guess that, I guess we're getting off page, I guess, a little bit, but it really is tough to create something that's going to carry itself forward without that kind of like devotion and dedication by as many people that can be there every time as possible, you
Yeah.
know, because it matters, because that's what we are attracted to when we see something new. You know, out of the last 25 times you went and saw something, I was like, oh, that's good. But when
Mhm.
you see something that's like, whoa, a lot of what you're feeling is preparation.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Part of what you're feeling is, you know, is another level of purpose happening over the 25 other bands that played that week on that same stage. And
yeah,
that purpose comes from, you know,
knowing it.
from knowing it, from not having to wonder, from not having to be able to perform. And it's that side of the product coin, performing, that because it seems to be more normal to have a revolving door of people trying to support your art as a person with their own name on the thing, um,
Mhm.
that side of the coin's gonna sit below the side of the coin that is the record that you put out, that you're trying to bring people to by playing shows.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
a hard thing to manage, but you know, but whatever's in the way, whoever's the creative visionary, whatever those little things that are in the back of your head that are like, wish that wasn't there, address that, you know. I've all the time, it's like, well, but we can't go to, you know, College Station on a Wednesday because drummer can only play on Fridays and Saturdays. It's like, well, eagerness and availability outweigh really anything else. Personality, eagerness, availability, ability to be personable, those are the most important things, well over musicianship.
yeah. Hmm.
Because if you've got a virtuoso that's unavailable, who cares,
Yeah.
right? um so anyway, now I feel like I'm having one of those discussions. Anyway, that's part of what I do with the Awesome
I
Music.
love it. I'm just,
Johnny and I do this artist development program thing where we take
yes.
this conceptual thing and we dive deeper over a period of time with people. You know, we work with them in rehearsal rooms. um you know, really all what most of my time is working with folks is just repeating things that they tell me.
Yeah.
You know, I repeat something that they just told me, like, oh, you know, that you just answered your own question
Yeah.
about whether or not I should spend $6,000 over the next few months to promote this album when I don't have a band and the album's coming out in 2 weeks. Like, you
This
just
is
answered
what
your own
I'm
question.
hearing you say.
But I'm here to support you in that decision to just try to be awesome. Just worry about being awesome right now and see what of those things come to you. Being an artist is enough. It's hard enough and it requires that much attention.
Yeah, you're like a musical therapist.
I guess so, maybe, you know.
Yeah.
I hope everybody leaves with a positive I get notes that people say thanks, so that's nice.
I feel like I'm taking pretty much 100% of what you've said in the second half of this chat, and I'm like, I can apply pretty much everything you said to what I'm building here.
And
It's
and
so freaking valuable.
and I
Like,
and I always like to qualify that, like, this isn't this none of these things are my opinion, and most of these things are things that I failed to do in my own life. Um but they're things that I've recognized to be most true
Mm-hmm.
in the people who I've stood next to on stage, looking out over 20 to 80,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's the things that I've come to understand by having relationships with them musically, and socially. Uh, that's the things that they were thinking about. They weren't
Yeah.
thinking about marketing themselves. Kelly Clarkson was thinking about being the best singer in the world, and I still think that there's nobody that comes close to that woman.
She's
Um,
amazing.
but any example that you choose of anyone that you wish to emulate, if I'm thinking about, like whatever it is, from Queens of the Stone Age to,
Mm.
the Kelly Clarkson, to like Maroon 5, to Black Sabbath, to like just you name it, every single thing, their focus was singular. Their
Right.
focus was singular on providing a product that someone wanted to invest in. And
Yeah.
there's no difference in investment from somebody giving you $10 at the door or 10 million. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing that brings that investment. How is what I'm doing draw somebody to me when they have other things to do with their time
Yeah.
that I would agree with? you
Yeah,
know?
because I think something that you said earlier, which I have in the very front of my brain all the time, is that nobody really gives a shit,
No, that's
and that's
okay.
okay. Like,
Yeah,
I don't have time to give a shit about a lot of things.
yeah.
But yet here I too have a product that I'd love for people to give a shit about, but that's always what I'm kind of thinking. But it always has to come back to, like you said, work on the product.
Work on the product.
The product has to be pure and good and rooted in your intention and authentic and fully focused into whatever it is that you're trying to create. That in and of itself will be an attractor to
Yeah,
people as it grows.
yeah.
Yes.
And people read so much, and things like, and this is for you, this is for music, this is for stand-up comedy, this is for movies, this is for any sort of thing like that. you know Enthusiasm is palpable,
Mm-hmm.
and it and believing in what you're doing is also palpable, because that's what all of us in whatever sort of art form, uh we need to make people believe we are weaving magic in some sort of way. uh,
Yeah.
and and you gotta think like that, because that's why you're attracted to the things that made you want to go about this thing in the first place. So it's,
It's, yeah.
you gotta spike the ball back to your heroes by like trying to be awesome, back to just trying to be awesome. There's
Yeah.
a great Dave Grohl like minute or 2 minute interview that's like advice for musicians. And that's all he says. You just gotta be awesome. You just gotta be badass. You just gotta live up to your own self. You just gotta work and like play shows and just go out there and like mean it. And
Love
and
it.
it's true. You and I and everybody else react to purpose. There could be stinker notes going on all night long, but if they mean it,
Oh, yeah.
in.
Absolutely. Com- Commitment. Yes, absolutely.
Commitment is huge,
Yeah.
and then you provide that visceral thing, that story on the way home, and make somebody go and put these on, and then maybe they might get to a familiar message, maybe something to
Yeah.
drive the hook in a little bit deeper, and then that love affair begins.
Yeah.
um, but you gotta move in that order. You
Hmm.
gotta woo them with melody and vibe, um, and then you got to set the hooks with words, but it
Yeah.
happens in that order.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that they have you and Johnny there, and that this is so avail. So how does someone listening, because I just feel like this last half hour, 40 minutes of part of this conversation has been super valuable for people. How does a new young artist or anyone really get involved with Austin Music Foundation? And more importantly, how do they get in a room with you and Johnny?
Yeah, but austinmusicfoundation.org. It's a
Yeah,
lot of letters, but you can make it.
you can do it.
Um, that'll take you to the website, um, and then there will, before too long, there will be a place to click on for consultations, and then
Okay.
there'll be a picture of me, I think like this, and then, or maybe it's this way, I don't know. It's a profile, um, and uh, and then yeah, you can click on a thing there. It'll take you to a place where you can choose your own day and time, and it's just an easy Zoom thing that's supposed to be an hour, but as you can tell, I'll talk all day. So
I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
it's easy. Just bang right on there, and then set up a time, and then send me stuff or don't send me stuff. Really, I love to hear what people are doing,
Mhm.
but I don't need to hear it to know who you are, um, because that's the other thing is just you just see yourself in everybody that comes through,
Yeah.
and 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 I think about all the people that were nice enough to smack me around at some point, from George Reef to Mark Holman, Michael Ramos, like all those dudes when I was like stupid 20 something year old kid, and um without going long, there's another thing that's crazy about this thing. It keeps people from
Create.
making themselves a presence in three-dimensional space just for
Oh,
people to just be with and talk to.
yeah.
Yeah, they feel the need to carve out an hour to network once a week, and it's like, well, enthusiasm, like
Yeah.
be around the people that you want to be around, um,
Yeah.
because that has massive dividends. Your personality as just a character, um,
Hmm.
might just draw the people that you want to help you to you.
Yeah.
But that's all anybody really wants to do is work with people that they like, you
Yeah.
know.
And that feel good that you can have that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you sort of present yourself as sort of up for it and like just down for the journey and crazy enough to, kick this thing off, you might find that you're getting some people that might speak a little straighter to you because they recognize you're weird enough to get in this. So okay, here's some real advice, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Awesome. Amazing. All right. Well, before we have to say goodbye, tell me what's on the horizon for you. What's coming up that you're excited about in your life and
well, I'm finishing up this latest artist development program record over at the Bubble.
Mhm.
We have a couple last minute things to attend to for that, but that's going to be cool. That's uh Sarah Hauser,
Mhm.
who has two killer tracks. Everybody's got two tracks. El Combo Oscuro, um, Poet Hawkins. I don't know if you've.
He's been on the show.
He has. Okay, great.
He's
Um,
awesome. Love him.
he's yeah. That dude is a soft spoken force to be reckoned with. Like
Amen. He's
it's
amazing.
crazy how soft he seems to sing, right?
Mhm.
On a microphone in a studio where you're looking at that stuff, it's huge,
Oh, I cannot wait to hear it.
giant.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, him, Grace Sorensen,
She's been on too. I love her.
she's super awesome.
Amazing.
She's got like one kind of sort of Latin inspired jam and then another sort of hip hoppy R&B kind of thing.
Nice.
Um, and then Jake Lloyd has a couple of like,
Yeah, he's been on too. I love it.
okay, good. Yeah. Oh, okay, awesome. So yeah, I got that coming up. Then I've got some other things in that regard coming up. Um, some Fray stuff. I don't know about anything here in town. It's been a minute since I've done any shows in town with
Yeah,
anybody.
it'd
I
be
played a
fun to
Stone Wheel
see you
show a few
play.
months ago. But yeah, I need to see if my buddy Billy Harvey's planning any trips here because I usually play with him when he comes to town.
Yeah, let me know when you're gonna be up on stage. I'll come in and cheer you on.
Yeah, yeah, no, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, maybe somebody will let me play drums. Sometimes Billy lets me play drums. Okay, I'll tell you this fact about me that uh drums is my favorite thing.
Mhm.
I think drums are most people's favorite thing. Like if anybody
Cool.
walks into a studio, the first thing 9 out of 10
Oh,
they walk into is like, "Can I hit these?"
yeah.
Uh, because it's the funnest thing in the world. Um, but you know why that wasn't? That's the thing that from the time that I got those drums from my grandpa, um, like I have two other drum sets. Like I've bought 4 drum sets in my life for
Mm.
no reason. Um, but I don't have them all anymore. But that's the thing that I probably spent the most time like practicing,
Mhm.
playing along to stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but you know why I didn't choose that as a thing that I wanted to like really pursue?
Why? Because you have to carry, is it like a pain in the butt to carry all that stuff?
No, because I
Oh,
used to carry just as much stuff in my stupid young days as a bass player.
yeah.
But the real reason why is because I just couldn't get past the fact that I had to be in the back all by myself behind things.
Well, there you go.
My need for people's attention was too strong, and I had to find a position that was more toward the front of the stage.
Know thyself. I love the self-awareness. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that honesty. That's so fun.
But drums are the most fun of anything.
Yeah. Who says that the drums have to be all in the back all the time? Who made
Well,
that
that's
rule?
true. That's true. And big rule breaker that smashed that to bits was Jellyfish. Did you ever listen to Jellyfish?
Mm-mm.
So Jellyfish was one of my Johnny and my favorite groups, as many people's favorite groups, in the early '90s. You should check them out.
I
Uh,
will. Heard of them. I just
they're only 2 albums. They're amazing, but their drummer was their lead singer,
like Phil Collins style.
like Phil Collins. But when they played live, the drums were all the way forward, and he didn't sit to play. He stood.
Oh,
He stood, so he was the same height as everybody else. But was up front. Everybody else was, around. So it was
yeah.
really cool. You can look up videos on YouTube because they're also one of the craziest good live bands of all time.
Oh,
Yeah,
sweet. Yeah, I've definitely heard of them, but I'm gonna do a little deep dive.
yeah, check it out. Front drummer.
Yeah, or we could do it Tommy Lee style and just get you up there and like spin you around and
Oh
get
man,
some
that's pretty
attention, get
cool.
some eyeballs up there.
That's
There's
pretty awesome.
things we can do.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the technology for that.
We might have to let that one go, Einar,
I have
but
to let that one go.
you'll be okay. I have a feeling you'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. It's so great to see you again, and I can't wait to see you in person whenever that will be.
Yeah.
But thanks for spending time. It was really nice just to get to focus on you and get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, cool. All right. No, that's cool. That was fun. Um, what was I gonna say? I don't know. No, it's a good time.
Well,
Yeah.
then you and I will chat after I stop recording, but we'll say goodbye to everyone watching and listening. And thank you so much for coming on. And that does it for another episode of the Austin Downbeat. Bye, bye
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
guys.